Go.
So we're ready to hang our first piece of paper centrally on this wall, okay? Remember, it's a straight match paper, so it's the same match both sides. First thing you need to do is decide which way up you're going to have it, okay? Which hopefully will be the right way up. The rule of thumb is, if you have the small bit at the top, the big bit there, then put it over your arm like that, big bit is in the front, just where you want it. So just like when we're doing any papers, hold the paper 50mm down. That's your wastage. That's going to go to the top of the wall. What you need to be thinking about here is a lining on this line here. Can you see that okay? Where you are. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my foot there, and I'm going to let go of this back bit. Okay, the reason I've put my foot there is to stop it dropping really heavily, because it might tear. So up to the top, but I can't just do that because I've got to think about that line. So holding the paper away, looking at the line, taking the paper up, it's all a bit, you've got to be a bit sort of conscious of your movements here. Up, looking at the line, making sure I'm going to the top of the wall, going over each of them points, keeping it the right way up. There. If you've got enough paste on, you'll be able to do that. It's called slip and slide. Okay, so make sure you paste it well. If you don't paste it well, you won't be able to move it. All you'll end up doing is tearing or stretching it. So I've got it in the perfect place now, right in the centre. This time I'm going to use my board. Okay, I'm going right down the middle to the outsides. Like that. Now when I go like this, because I'm going to the edge, what I do just naturally is I just wipe it on there just in case any paste has come out the side. Then up, and then I'm going to tuck that in there just like we do with the smoothing brush. Right, that bit there. Okay. If you do get any paste on it while you're papering, make sure you just wipe it off. I can see a little bit of something. I'll make sure I wipe that off. Right, so this bottom bit now, I've got it all in place. Still on my plumb line, yeah. So if you've got enough paste on, you can move it about. Take that down, straight down the centre again, to the sides, and then tuck that in gently. Don't be rough with this because you might tear it. Okay. The reason I didn't cut the top when I was up there is because if I'd have been slightly short at the bottom, I could have moved it down a little bit because I've got the excess. So don't do the trimming top and bottom until you've got the full piece on. Okay. So just making sure the edges are down. Right, now I've got another board, and the reason I'm using this board is because it's a bit thinner. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to trim along that top edge. Before I do that, I'm just going to snap off. Maybe not on carpet, do it on here. I'm just going to snap off that first snap blade. There we go. As I said, that needs to go in the sharp box or into masking tape. I'm just going to put it over here so I know where it is. So that now is a nice sharp blade, fresh blade. So I'll start at the bottom, see how you down the bottom. When you're trimming, always have the board in front of the paper, not the other way around. Because if you trim like that, you might be short. So make sure your board is facing down. Start with your blade, and then just guide it along the board, just moving the board across, like that, keeping it tight to the edge. Retract your blade, and then take that bit off. And as you always, fold it up, sponge, take away the excess paste, and then just make sure it's nice and tight. And that's your bottom done. Okay, so exactly the same on the top. What I'll do is I'm going to top, I'll take my sponge up with me. Right, so this one on the top there. So no matter which side you go, it's up to you. If you do find you're starting to drag, that's the time to snap off your blade. Like that. And then make sure you always wipe the paste off the ceiling, off the wall, off the door frame, no matter what, because it will go yellow. Okay, and I think I remember seeing a little bit of paste on the face. Just double check. And that's water, water. Can't see it now. See bits of water. I can see a bit of a bubble, so always check it. Just a bit of air in there, look. That just needed to go out like that. Yeah. It's up to you whether you want to use a board or a smoothing brush for this. It doesn't really matter. You can use either. I'm just checking here for any areas that might feel bubbly, and there isn't. So that's your first piece on. So I'm going to continue here and do the second piece. Well, the second piece, what I've got to be thinking of, needs to be over here, I think. Be good. And your second piece obviously going to be second on your pal. Okay. What you're going to be doing here is matching up to this joint and taking it up to the ceiling. Okay. So it's similar to going against your plumb line. So again, roll your arm. So I know that, and if you do think, oh, I don't know which way up, T for top. Get your 50mm waist stitch. Drop against your foot. And then offer up. And just like you did with the plumb line, you need to be getting this straight. You need to be thinking about your waist stitch, but you also need to be thinking about where the pattern is. So I can see the flowers there to there. So I need to go a little bit higher. Right, against the wall, just take it off. Offer it up, get it nice and straight before you bang it on. There. Okay, now with a joint, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to butt it up. I'm going to slide it so it touches just like that. If it touches, I'm not going to have any gap behind it. Keep checking your pattern, because there's a lot of paste on this, it might slide about. Found you're getting a bit of paste on the joint, just wipe it off, because it will catch in the light if you don't. Right, now what I've got here is I've got that door frame. So what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to cut the angle to release the pressure, because I can't put the paper on. So just as I said before, going along with a mitre, find the corner, okay, up to the corner, that can go in there, and then that'll tuck in there, like that. Right. When you are doing a few things like this, it's quite usual for that joint to move, so just make sure you're keeping your eye on this joint, whether it's going down a little bit, to the side a little bit. There's the ball, happy where it is. I'll tuck it in. That's okay. You see, I'm not going to do any trimming at the top. until I've double checked that it fits. And like that. So keep the paste off that joint. Crease in there, I don't know why. And to be a little bit more careful with finished papers than you do lining papers or plain papers. Right, so what I've got here, I've got a big piece of excess. So I'm just going to take that off. It's at the bottom or the top, it's up to you. Make sure you're not cutting too far in. You need to leave, I'm going against the external of the door frame here. If you did have an area you thought, you know what, that would fit perfect, you could keep that. But assessing this area, I don't think there is going to be anywhere that I can use it on. So that's wastage, I'm afraid. So just with the top bit as well. Take that bit off, don't need that bit dangling. Going to give it a bit of a wipe before I go any further, because if I'm getting my hands in paste, I don't really want to be holding the paper. Okay, so I'm just taking a bit of the excess paste off. We've got this bottom corner that's an internal. So again, with the shears, go to the corner and just snip towards it. That'll take the pressure off, and now we can tuck it in. Okay, keep an eye on that joint. Can always come back to this joint. It's slightly, ever so slightly overlapping there. If it looks like it's big, proud and it's coming forward, that's where you need your seam roller. That's going to secure it. That's going to press it down. Sure. Start at the top. Don't matter where you start. Like I say, once you start cutting your going in place, it doesn't really matter if it's top or bottom. So right into the edge. Sure it's tight in. Nice sharp blade. So keep the knife at a low, long angle as well. If you use the knife just the point, it's going to go blunt really quick and it'll probably drag. Try and use the knife flat. Missed my corner a little bit there, but don't matter. Popped it in now. Try and smooth that bit out. Top bit, if you find, it's a bit awkward, that top bit, I'm probably going to make a mess. That's when you can use your pencil. No one's going to see up there. And if it's easier for you, use your pencil on that bit. Alright, like that. If it's in an inconspicuous area, you can use your shears. Oops. Knock it off. Like that. I'm going to give it a bit of a wipe while I'm up here. I'm going to give it a clean at the end as well. This is just to keep on top of it. Keep checking that joint. Now I'm going to go all the way down this bit. This is where you need to make sure your knife is nice and sharp. A bit of a wipe in case it's got paste on. Tuck right into the corner. It must be tight into the corner for this to work. And then with your knife, sorry, not your shears, you're just going to come all the way down like this. Just in stages. I'm just going to change the angle of my knife there. It's difficult to get in. And then that should just pull away nicely to leave a really nice neat, sharp edge. You wouldn't get this if your knife was blunt. Okay, so that's a nice, neat edge. I'll give it a bit better clean now at the top. If you leave paste on the surface, it'll go yellow. Okay, it'll stain and go yellow. Check your paper as well. As we saw on the information label, it's a wipeable paper, so it's fine. I'm going across it with a sponge. It says on the information label I can do that. Up there. And then the very last bit, just at the bottom. Like so. So that's that piece on and done, okay? I am going to check that joint though before I leave it, because you might have messed it up too much, so I'm going to check that it's not overlapping, there's no gap, that it's still touching. And because I feel like it maybe needs a little press down, I'm going to get my seam roller here. This beautiful tool here. And from top to bottom, I'm just going to roll that edge on there, like that. And that's just going to press it down that little bit further. A little bit of paste might come out like this. That's all right, we can wipe that off. Show it proper touching. That's it. Crease there, I don't know why, but I'm going to give that a bit of a rub as well. Sorry for my squeaky roller. That's it. And wipe that joint again. Don't over wipe some joints. Some papers aren't wipeable. This one is. If the paper isn't wipeable, if you're wiping the joint, you'll make it shine. But this one's okay. So again, I'm just going to check. I've got no air. I've got a little bit of air there. Feel it. So I'm just going to take that out. That way to the joint. So you ain't like, right, this is it, I've put it on and it's perfect. You do have to sometimes spend a bit of time on papers, making sure they're right. You spend a lot of money on paper, there's no point rushing it. So that's 2 pieces on. That's going round the door frame angle and putting the centre piece on. I'm going to put this piece on next, but I'm not going to video that because it's an exact copy of that one. Okay.